What's a deep dark secret about you that you would like to confess? Found out my girlfriend of 5 years at the time cheated on me. I started sleeping with her mom on a regular basis even though I stayed with the GF for a few more years. Her mom was better. When I was in middle school I got bullied/beat up by some kids because I smoked weed. The next year in high school the same kids pretended I was cool so they could buy some weed. So I sold them low-quality weed at heavily inflated price that I had mixed with oregano. I'm in love with my cousin and have been for many, many years. We're 7 years apart in age, her older. Both of us are by women, but we each have our own families and husbands. That's not exactly the kind of thing you can share at family dinners, so I never told anyone, including her. I obviously moved on, shoving those feelings deep down where I tried to forget about them. She left the state for 10 years so it made it easier to forget about her. My current husband knows I have a crush on her, but doesn't know the extent. Her and her family moved back a year ago, so my feelings for her have resurfaced and have been harder to hide ever since. I have kept my distance for this reason. Except now my feelings are all kinds of messed up because a few weeks ago, the 4 of us, me, my husband, her and her husband, all went out and drunkenly ended up having a foursome together. Now that's the biggest secret that we're keeping from the rest of our family, but I still have my own secret. On the very few opportunities one had to physically hurt someone, it felt freaking fantastic. It should be noted that one of them tried to rob me, and the other picked a fight. I don't go out of my way to hurt people or enjoy hurting anyone I know or like in any way. I also don't put myself in situations where it could happen. But if a random gives me a good reason to unload on them, it's fun. I did meth like it was a nicotine habit for about 5 years and I'm pretty sure only the people I've told know about it. I quit because of the risks and social stigma if I ever got caught, but firmly believe it actually benefited my life in way more ways than it hurt. I'm pretty sure I have some form of undiagnosed ADHD or something. The real weird part is, putting it down was really easy. Way easier than quitting cigarettes or even coffee. I don't typically share this because it sounds way too much like an endorsement. I do not recommend LOL. I'm adopted. When I was 3, I told my biological aunt that a man peed in my mouth, and when she pressed charges, she thought it was my adopted brother, however it actually was my biological mother's cousin. I told everyone she made it up because I got scared, and to this day I still haven't told anyone she was telling the truth, and my adopted parents banned me from having a relationship with her. It's been 18 years. I, and my brother, was abandoned by my mother and father as a toddler. I was raised by my grandparents on my mother's side. They didn't really want us, but got to draw Social Security on us if we lived there. My grandfather was an alcoholic and a wife beater. I would find all of the liquor he had stashed and pee in it. The one under the car seat, the one behind the toolbox, the one in his closet, the one in the crawl space under the house. I did this for at least 5 years. Sometimes, after he was super drunk and in a fighting mood, I would pour the alcohol out before I peed in it to make sure he just drank straight piss. I stopped doing it once I was old enough to physically stop him from beating my grandmother. I bet he drank 10 gallons of my pee over the years. I've been contacting every new partner my abuser has dated since leaving my mom when I was a kid and informed them of what type of man he is. Let them know he only dates women with kids to abuse their children for years. Let them know that he will slowly poison them until they're too sick to do anything but just accept the verbal abuse he puts them through and make them so sick they can't see what he's doing to their own children. I relive all of the abuse he put me through so maybe I can prevent another child from the same fate I suffered and the first girl after me suffered because I never spoke up. I've successfully caused 2 breakups over this, and I don't plan on stopping until he's too old to harm another child. One time I was invited to my mom's boss's Easter party. It was very prestigious at this really fancy country club and they ended up ordering a lot of KFC. Now I was a fat kid at the time and I loved food. And KFC just came out with the grilled chicken and they used like some type of garlic seasoning because it was so amazing. I ended up eating like I think a whole 2.5 chicken buckets worth of grilled cheese at the ripe old age of 13. I went to the only bathroom in the venue and proceeded to clog the toilet with the biggest fattest poop I had ever done. It was so bad because it wouldn't flush, and then I tried to use the plunger to make it flush and the next thing I know the toilet is overflowing. I ran out of the bathroom, screaming and crying out of embarrassment. To make it worse, the next person in line after me, the boss's wife, I saw her horror as a piece of poop floated by her red-bottom high heels. I didn't stay inside for the rest of the whole party and hid behind the bushes outside. My brother had to get a cupcake napkin for me to wipe my butt. I only came back to the venue when it was time to leave. I later found out, years later, that the boss of my mom's had fudged her numbers and took $70,000 of her pay. But my poop flood caused so much damage to the country club that they had to renovate half of the entire country club because the toilet was at the top of the stairs, so my poop water flowed down the wooden stairs and soaked in and went to the basketball court at the bottom of the stairs. So I hope he had to pay using that money. I cheated on my first boyfriend with his cousin. I was 16 and stupid. I felt terrible and broke up with him after the weekend was over. We'd gone away to a trailer camp for the weekend. Told him it was because he was too nice, but really what I meant was, he was too nice to have such a crappy girlfriend. It felt so awful. I never cheated ever again, but I'm so ashamed of what I did I never told a soul. Not even my best friend knows even 25 years later. Used to be friends with this dude back in the day. We were drunk and seeing who could hold their breath the longest. He won, but it was because he almost drowned. Several months later, he was arrested for molesting his wife's sister. I cut all ties with them. That was like 18 years ago. It just came out that he molested his daughter since she was very young. A big part of me wishes I hadn't saved him that night. Would have saved those girls from a predator. I know you can't think like that, but I do. I made over $200,000 on a YOLO option trade, and lost all of the money before the end of the year. I manually entered every single trade in the tax software to review and try to figure out where did everything go wrong. I'm in an amazing relationship, but I have to go to college soon, where I don't plan on doing long distance. I'm afraid once I leave her now I'll never meet her again under good circumstances. She knows it's coming, I know it's coming, but we're still in denial. On top of that, she lets trauma from her past relationship affect ours, and it's just hard for me to deal with all around. Now I'm just sort of spending my last days with her like she's got a terminal illness or something. If you made it this far, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot, and I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video. I was told that my congenital heart disease puts me at risk of sudden cardiac death, and I'm only 30 years old and I couldn't care less. I avoid telling family and friends to keep from depressing them, but hey, how is this news any different than the current life I'm living? I have experienced euphoria before, without drugs nor alcohol only a handful of times in my life, early 40s. I think this is because of therapy, exercising, reading self-help books, mindfulness, and meditation. I cannot describe how wonderful it is. Imagine no ego, anger, desire, wants, etc., and multiply that by infinity. I think this is what heaven must feel like. I am desperately reaching for euphoria again. I know I'm a serial cheater since I was 17. I genuinely loved all of them, but my brain couldn't, and still can't, probably, see anything wrong with it. I would just be like, so what? That's why throughout my adulthood I don't drink too much, don't do drugs, try my best to avoid having close male friends and having one-on-one hangouts. I try my absolute best to not put myself in risky situations. I went to therapy and found new hobbies to distract myself. I met a good guy at 22, stayed faithful, had a 3-year relationship and an amicable breakup. I would like to think that I have changed for the better. Had some anger issues when I was a young teenager. One fight I had with my mom and dad over something dumb like grades or something. I got really upset and stormed out of the discussion. My mom followed me to continue. I stood up to her and was within an inch of punching her. I just remember fuming and my body tensed up like right before you're about to fight someone. Luckily, something inside me backed me down and I ran off into the woods behind our house to cool down. I still thank God every day I did not do that because I don't know if we'd even have a relationship to this day if I did that. This was 16 or 17 years ago, and I'm still a bit haunted by the memory what could have been, and I feel despicable even typing this. My boyfriend is poly and recently broke up with one of his partners, and I'm happy about it and hope he breaks up with the other one too. I love him and want him to be happy, so I'm sad I think this way. I wish I was emotionally okay with his lifestyle, but I'm just not. I can live with it, but I hope one day I won't have to. I smoked weed twice in high school back in the 1970s, and lied about it on my U.S. Department of Defense civilian job application, and then held the job for the next 25 years until retirement, and they never found out. One time when I was 8, I was tossing a Turbo Man action figure from the Schwarzenegger Christmas film jingle all the way back and forth with my friend in a park. Halfway through, I spotted a bee's nest hanging low in a tree. Again, I was 8. I was curious. I took a moment, thought about it, and then I did it. I tossed that Turbo Man like Tom Brady on his best day and knocked the daylights out of that bee's nest. Score, except of course it was nearly overhead of my unsuspecting friend. Boom, bees everywhere. He literally ran home screaming bloody murder with a cloud of black and yellow following him. Just like a movie. I'd like to point out that it was both not an accident and an accident. I didn't intend to cover my friend in a blanket of angry bees. But I did intend to knock that nest like a piñata. To this day, he and his mother believe it was all an accident. I felt horrible and still do. But luckily he didn't develop any allergies or health issues from it. I'm in college and I work 20 hours a week to financially support my girlfriend who lives in an abusive home. I've worked myself to death for about a year and a half, trying to balance work and college. She doesn't get fed enough. She doesn't always have access to her own money because her parents are very controlling and she isn't allowed to buy many things. She took up smoking as a coping mechanism and her parents refused to allow her to buy nicotine patches or gum to help her quit. She is a trans woman, which they refuse to accept, so she isn't allowed makeup or women's clothes or anything with her actual name on it. I bought her all those things. I helped pay for therapy, for bras and makeup and engraved jewelry to remind her that someone supports her in who she is. It's so difficult, but I've never let anyone know. It's nearly destroyed me, my mental health, and I'm struggling to maintain my grades at college. But I don't regret it for a second. We're moving in together in a year, she's going to uni. I've never seen her happier and I'm so glad that she's going to be free of her parents. We got engaged 6 months ago and I can't wait to marry her. I'd do it all over again in a heartbeat, but my God, I can't wait for 6 months' time when I can stop. At 16, I was sleeping with a married 32-year-old. Ruined his marriage and his wife keyed my car. Only the three of us know, as Buddy was looking at cold hard time if anyone else found out. I know. I'm a piece of crap, but I was young and dumb and he said all the right things. One of my best friends from high school and college who I had lost touch with called me multiple times the night he overdosed. After one of his calls he left a voicemail saying he was going to kill himself, and that he was sorry, but he had done something terrible and couldn't live with himself. I deleted the voicemail and didn't tell anyone. I don't know what he did and I don't want to. I'm not sure why I was the one he called, and I'll forever regret not answering the phone that night. His death was ruled an accidental overdose, but I know it wasn't. I don't want the fact that it wasn't an accident to color the opinion his very religion has of him now that he's gone. When I was 6, I burned down an apartment unit. I was a little pyromaniac. No one was in the unit at the time. About 20 apartments in the building. They all were workers who worked nearby at a chemical plant. Someone left the front door unlocked to the hallway that accessed the 20 apartments. One of the doors to one unit was open. I lit a permanent marker and it caught my wrist on fire. I threw it lit in a desk drawer. I ran home. An hour later, I heard sirens. It was ablaze. I'm 43 now. I broke up with my first real girlfriend, ended in a long-distance relationship, just to have sex with a coworker and not feel guilty of cheating. She was a foreign intern who was staying with my family but had to leave because of COVID. Nobody knows about this except another girl I was later interested in, but then she lied about an arranged marriage to start dating a close friend of mine. My ex was a narcissistic, abusive cheater. One night, while he was with another girl, I cleaned the toilet with his toothbrush and went to sleep. He came home in the early morning, showered, brushed his teeth and left for work. I packed his things, including his toothbrush, and left them out for him. Parted ways peacefully and never spoke again. Due to our poly lifestyle, my wife and I are almost positive that I'm not the biological father of my 19-year-old daughter. On paper I'm her dad and I treat her as my own, but my wife and I have never told her anything, because for us it doesn't matter. We just don't know if we would ever want to tell her. But we have clauses in our wills that will tell her and her brother about our sex lives after our deaths and also the truth about her potential biological dad. It should be noted my wife doesn't know who the dad is either, but we have a list of 5 guys and she kinda looks like one of them. We've of course told him, he's also not sure if she's his. I had phone sex with my ex-wife 3 months after marrying my current wife. She wanted to hook up, and that's when I realized that what she was trying to do was destroy my marriage. It was a huge mistake, and I still loathe myself over it. That was 25 years ago. I love my wife very much, and we are completely dedicated to each other, but every once in a while I remember what I did, and I detest it and myself. Please leave your story in the comments. Also, if you are new to the channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe for new videos.